Well, good afternoon. Welcome back to my little gardening show. We got our first heavy frost last night, and that's like in the upper 40s right now. I was in the 30s this morning. Right at the garden. We're gonna go through and kind of assess things, but I'm sure that frost really affected the lima beans down there. Our main goal today is to get the sweet potatoes harvested if they haven't been, not all of them have been dug up yet, and then start doing some maintenance on the garden as far as cleaning up, cutting some things down in preparation for the leaves that we're going to be bringing in. So the kids are down there, most of them, kind of looking at things. What I wanted to show you though, these are the sweet potatoes that Dad has harvested. We planted a couple different types. We got a couple monsters. You know, and then a couple of like regular sized, couple that split. So anyway, I know we did a Beauregard, I think that's how you pronounce it, Georgia Jet, and there was another variety, I can't remember the name, but anyway, we get a wheelbarrow load here. We're gonna go down and see if there's any more, and then start working on the garden. Okay, so I'm down here in the garden. Again, the lima beans really affected by the frost last night. The garlic is still doing well. I don't know if we can pan in on that. Most of them are about 8 inches tall.
Guess
the
what?
shoots there.
Guess what we got?
What'd you guys get?
These are radishes.
Wow, some volunteer radishes.
They're huge.
It's kind of interesting. We had radishes planted next to the tomatoes on the other side, and I let them go to seed. We harvested some of the seeds that are up in the greenhouse, but then apparently there's a bunch that hit the ground because we had a second crop of radishes. We've been picking them now for a couple weeks. Not bad. They got pretty good flavor. Oh, and there's Grandpa. He's home. Yay. You can see the Swiss chard was affected by the frost. The peppers were affected. The turnips seem to be doing okay. The kale's doing all right. The lettuce and kind of the cooler weather stuff seem to be doing just fine. The butternut squash that were planted here, none of them made it. So we'll get started with the rest of it here. Well, you guys got quite the little radish crop going here.
Yeah, they're huge.
Those are huge. I'm curious to see what the insides look like when we actually, chomp into them, if they're going to be pithy or if they're going to be
spicy.
Nice and crisp.
Oh, and then regular. With the turnips.
Oh, we got some turnips too, huh?
Are way bigger.
Yep. Well, we'll take a look. I mean, the tomatoes are done for sure. I'll open up the barn here.
What?
Well, the lima beans didn't make it, and that is a shame because they were looking real good.
No, look.
Other pods? Why don't you go through and pick what you can, see, before I mow them down.
I want to mow them down.
Well, of course you want to mow them down. That's easier.
No, because I don't like lima beans.
Why don't you just look through and see if there's any pods?
I don't like them.
Well, surveying the garden still. We got our herb box here. And as you can see, most of this basil is done. We got a ton of basil seed that we can harvest off this, which we probably will, and try to get some basil starts going. That's really neat.
Oh my goodness.
Well, the kids are having a ball and a half getting the pepper plants out. Mowed down the lima beans.
Oh man, that's a shame.
Oh, it is a shame, isn't it?
Oh God. Well, next year's we're going to be successful with lima.
We'll plant them first. Getting the old Flexmore set up here.
These are good tomatoes. If you want to, they'll ripen. You bring them in the house, or you can fix fried green tomatoes.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll get started on the rest of this. Well, you can kind of see the tangled mess we're dealing with. These were the indeterminate kind of heirloom types that we had through here, and they grew all up and down these trellises. They're a little easier to take out because we waited till they're pretty well dried out, so they rip away from the structure a lot easier, but it's still it's still kind of a painstaking job going down through here, getting all this ripped out, you know, and then getting the residue that's got, you know, some of its disease or whatever, trying to get that cleaned out best we can, because we don't want to encourage blight and things of that nature if we can avoid it. Well, the fun times continue. We mowed down the northern half, or the southern half of the garden rather, including the Swiss chard and all that. Pulled out the big old stems. Now we're going through the tomato trellis. Kids are having a ball and a half. Look at them. But we want to clean these trellises off. I may end up taking the panels down because we're going to want to sanitize them somehow. You know, clean it well, because we don't want next year's crop to get diseased with any kind of like spores or residue that's left from
Then it would be easier to leave them up.
these tomatoes. Yeah, it would be easier, again, easier to not do the extra step, but we're gonna pay for it later.
No, like, if we don't take it down, we can sanitize it easier.
Well, we'll see. We'll think about it a little bit, but our main goal right now is get these trellises cleaned out. And if we do take it down, it's just going to be a matter of snipping the zip ties and taking the panels down. We may leave them up if we can figure out how we're going to wipe them down, clean them. Anyway, let's keep going. Meanwhile, we know that radishes grow well next to tomatoes based on what we're seeing here, and these are all volunteer.
And they'll grow really well in cold weather.
Volunteer radishes.
That's like a smaller one though.
But all this is ready to pick, really. I digress. Alright, let's keep working. Well, we've made a lot of progress, haven't we? Pulled all the vines out of the trellises. They're clean, so our next step is to get the twine, if there's any twine out, and then we're going to spread all this residue out in the yard over here, and we're going to mow it down with the big riding moors that Dad's got. Get rid of it. Then we'll kind of see. I know turnips will leave. It didn't look like the frost affected them. Really, they looked like they were able to survive the frost. So we'll let them keep going. But in next probably 2 weeks, the township here, they bring leaves to people that want them. We're gonna have a big truckload of leaves, like a dump truck, piled into the garden here, maybe even 2, and then we're going to work on spreading them out as a cover for the ground over winter. We're going to do that because that's going to break down, kind of insulate things, give the worms something to eat. There's a lot of nutrients in the leaves, compost tea, all that good stuff. Alright, ready to get started again? She said no. Okay, so we got most of the residue, a lot of it, kind of under control there. We've got it spread out on the yard there. Ideally, we'd want to just haul that away, like burn it or whatever, but we don't have a burn pile and we don't want it sitting around rotting and stinking everything up. So I'm gonna take the 0-turn mower here and we're gonna mow all that down. This is kind of the fun part.
Had a successful garden season.
We have had a successful garden season, that's true.
And it's topped off by these volunteer radishes, which you can see on the picnic table.
Yeah, and there's a bunch more out there. We need to clip these tops so they don't, they got little spines on them.
Yeah. They're
Stickers.
They're better than they were in the spring.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, a lot of clearing out of the garden. We're getting ready for winter.
Yeah, and all that residue, we mowed that all in. That 0-turn really chopped it up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right.
Probably gonna have to sharpen the blade.
And clean out the underside of that deck.
Yeah.
Too,
Yeah. So.
Well, praise God.
Yeah, praise the Lord. And look at the sky.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
really neat, all the little skyscapes out here.
Yeah.
Moon's coming out. All right, guys, you ready to go? One last view of the garden. We still left a few things. Our kale. We haven't mowed down that patch of clover yet. Haven't cleaned this out yet because the turnips are still going. But all that's mowed down and ready to cover. We're not going to till or anything like that. We're just going to leave that residue in place and then cover it with our leaf mulch. Again, that the county's going to be bringing in for us, hopefully, or the township, and kind of go from there. As for the trellis, the 2 trellises here that we got set up, we may leave those in place and figure out a way to clean those, maybe even drag the pressure washer down here at some point and wash them off real good and try to sanitize them best we can. If we decide to move them, it'd be pretty, when it's not impossible, we just have to remove the zip ties and stuff. So our farmer across the street that's got about 7,000 acres of property that they farm all over, they brought their beans in about 2 weeks ago, and their corn is still standing way out there. Pretty neat, huh? Alright, well I guess that's it for now. Until next time.